Hello and welcome to Obsessive Audio. Eric here. How has everybody been doing? It's been a while, I know. Quite a few weeks. I've been really busy doing some mixing, working on some videos, and the plugins have come and gone. I haven't been able to review them in the way that I would. However, what I thought I would do is a time to have another roundup. And this is where I'll pick several of the plugins that took my attention, because I was paying attention during this period. I just didn't get to do the reviews. But here are my picks for, let's say, the last 2 months or something. I highly recommend all of these. The first one up is Apogee Soft Limiter. And this one is time sensitive. I put it first because right now, Apogee is offering this plugin for free. That's right, for the low price of $0 pounds or your local currency. I would say to run, not walk, to Apogee's website and check them out. Free download, $99 value for the Apogee Soft Limiter. For those in the know, the Apogee Soft Limit was a feature of their converters going way back to the Mini-Me, the Rosetta, the Apogee 500 has it. And what it does is it prevents digital overs when you're recording, so you don't end up with clipping. Instead, what you end up with is a softening of the transient. And it's fairly transparent. If it's just taking off a few dBs, you don't tend to hear it. When it really digs in, it's a mellowing kind of effect. I guess you can compare it to a tape sort of softening effect. Soft is definitely the key word here, though. So that is the Apogee Soft Limit. I'd say, you know what, stop the video now, pause the video now, whatever, you can watch this later. Go over there and register with Apogee just to get this plugin, because it's been on giveaway for a while and I'm not sure how much longer it'll be. So there you go, Soft Limiter from Apogee. Next up, Savant Audio Labs, and this is a very recent release, the Quantum 2772 Evolution Reverb. This is a first in plugin world because this purports and proves to replicate the Quantex style reverbs, going way back to the 80s, the 70s even, I believe. It's a different type of algorithm. It doesn't use traditional ray tracing in terms of, with traditional reverbs, you'll be thinking about the walls in the room and reflections and how far are the walls and how long does the reflection take to bounce, and you get your feedback delay networks, and they're all organized around that principle. What Quantex did, and they did this early on, they said, no, we're not looking at it that way. We're going to look at the volume of the airspace in the room and resonances, and we're going to generate multiple resonances, and that's how we're going to create the reverb. And consequently, it's a very different sound. It's a very clear sound. It doesn't tend to build up on itself the way a traditional algorithm would. And also, they don't use modulation anywhere in the reverb. So the tails are extremely clean. It's been said that you can't tell the difference in some cases between this and actually recording in a real environment. What I will say is that it hugs the sound, as they like to say, that it gives a sense of space. It's unobtrusive. You can set it to do crazy 80s. There's a preset on here called Taj Mahal, which is about 10 minutes long. It's amazing. And I highly recommend checking that out at Savant Audio Labs. Their website has it on sale right now for $74. It's worth every penny. They actually have some audio samples here. Maybe we should listen to a few.
Take my love, I'll never ask for too much, just all that you are. Take my love.
Not bad, not bad. So you can go to their website, check out the demos there. I think you're going to find that this sounds different from a lot of the reverbs you've been using. It's definitely a fair price considering there is nowhere else in the box currently to get that type of algorithm. Next up, we've got the Hornet AnalogStage MK2. And this plugin is a console emulation plugin. It's designed to give you the distortion, the nonlinear effects, and the harmonics of a console. It's got three modes: the transistor mode, the op-amp mode, and the tube mode. Not in that particular order, but the op-amp is cleaner and kind of a bit bigger than the transistor, which is more distorted. The tube is even more distorted after that. We've got high and low pass filters built in. And if you can see on the controls, anything with a blue section can work cross plugin. And I guess I'm getting ahead of myself. What you can do with this plugin is you can set this plugin to groups. So you can take all your drums and say, set them all to group 1. And once they're all set on to group 1, any of these controls that are highlighted in blue will control all of the plugins at once. So if you change the saturation on one of the plugins, it's going to change them on all of the plugins. Same with the hiss. You can turn the hiss off or up for all of the instances that are set to the same group. You can change the mode. There's an age control there where you can set the age from 0 years old up to 20 years, I think, maybe 25, I'm not sure, but it gradually degrades as you set that up. It's a very cool plugin. It's got auto gain and an auto set to 0 VU. So it's almost like a little bit of an auto mixing feature just to get all of the tracks sort of in the ballpark of audibility. So I've been playing around with this one a bit, really liking it. Hornet Audio, of course, is they are in Italy. Their website is here. Their plugins tend to be very affordable, and in fact, I have a plugin of theirs called Valvola that they gave away for free last year, I think, and that is still one of my favorite saturators. You can choose between different models of tube and just crank away. I did some testing on this plugin, and it's got very low aliasing, so apparently it does have fairly high internal oversampling built in. No aliasing that I could see. It was a lot cleaner than some of the alternative console distortion type plugins. So definitely worth checking out the AnalogStage MK2 from Hornet. Next up, we have Digitalis from Aberrant DSP. Digitalis is dedicated to making the sounds of digital artifacts. So your standard bit crushing or low sample rate, but also lossy MP3 artifacts, telecommunication errors, there's decimators, there's weird delay effects, there's stuff that I don't even understand how they did it. And I've been playing with this one for a while. The presets themselves are crazy when you get near the end of the preset list. There's some stuff there where it will completely transform your audio. And I can't think of too many other plugins that have this level of control. There's a sequencer built in, so you can sequence the various parameters. There is, I believe, a randomize function. There are repeaters. It's crazy. You can reorder the modules. And I'm just digging into these. Like I said, I've been pretty busy, but right away I was getting phenomenal results with Aberrant DSP. And if you know who Aberrant DSP are, they've released these fairly unique plugins. Here's their website. They had one, I believe it was called Sketch Cassette, and then another compressor. Let's check out, actually. Shapeshifter. The Shapeshifter has a compressor built in that is crazy, and it doesn't sound like any of the other compressors I have. It is super aggressive, like amazingly so. And they want $20 for it. So again, very affordable plugins. Digitalis is the one that was recently released. That's on for $30 now. Highly recommend checking that one out. Next up from Acustica Audio, we have Jet. And Jet is their dynamic EQ with switchable EQ modules. So it's a standard dynamic EQ in the sense that you can boost or cut specific frequency ranges according to a threshold and a ratio. But what you can also do is get the different modules. They've released volume A and volume B. I'm not sure which ones are in which, but I believe volume A has your standard digital oversampled EQ curves, but it also, I believe, has, is it the Harrison EQ curves or the Neve EQ curves? It's basically from their line of sampled gear, but I believe it's been uniquely sampled for this set of plugins. There's 2 volumes already now. Volume A and volume B. And what else I could add about this is that I found that the envelopes and the detection, it just seems to be very smooth and very smart. Like when I wanted to duck a specific frequency, a particularly harsh range, let's say, it didn't take long to find it, and it just like basically controlled it exactly the way. And if I wasn't exactly happy with it, I could switch to a different model and get something a little closer. But in any case, the behavior of the plugin, it's obvious that they spent a long time on it because the envelopes are super smooth. It doesn't get glitchy like some of the other dynamic EQs. It actually didn't seem to have a lot of that kind of, when you use a dynamic EQ, sometimes you get a little bit of a unnatural kind of wah-wah effect if you've got it set in a strange way. Not even wah-wah, but a little bit of swooshiness. I didn't hear that with this. So this, I believe, is probably my favorite dynamic EQ at the moment. Next is the Pulsar Massive. Pulsar from France, not to be confused with the other Pulsar company. There are two of them. These are the people behind the 1178 compressor, the very new compressor that they made. I believe they did a Benson Echo Rec 2. Massive is the latest. This is from, a month or two ago. It is a remake and hyped up and improved upon Manly Massive Passive. So it's got all of those features, but more. It's got your standard knobs along the bottom, but along the top, you've got your modern GUI where you can grab and move and, and roll your bandwidth and all of that. You can select the amount of distortion. So you can go from completely clean, or you can add drive to it. I believe you can solo bands and do all the cool modern stuff with it. I don't know if that is still on introductory offer. I believe not. That may be over now, but $149 still not a bad price because I've put this up with the other Manly EQs in my arsenal. And this one is actually, I would say it's kind of cleaner. If you take all the distortion off, it's like, okay. And then maybe like Acustica Magentas, I would say maybe had more vibe overall in terms of like, oh, it's changing the sound in a way, but you don't always want that. And if I was going to reach for these curves in a really accurate kind of mastering way, this would definitely be in the chain for me to try out, because I think it would win a lot of the time. And finally, from Neold, Plugin Alliance is selling this, the new Neold U17A compressor. It's a highly accurate model of a vintage German compressor. Very rare, a couple dozen maybe made. This is number 17. It is a tube. Well, what it is, it's a germanium diode bridge detector compressor with a tube makeup gain. So it's like a hybrid compressor. It's got controls for distortion, but it's a distortion that you can change the frequency of where the distortion is emphasized. That's your density and emphasis. You can switch between linked or unlinked detection, attack and release. You've got a torque knob that gives you more ratio and a harder knee as you increase it. And you can further shape the side chain in a cool way that you don't see on a lot of compressors. You can set it to a high pass or a low pass variable, and you can also shift the center. So it's kind of like a tilt EQ in the detector chain, really. So that's very cool. Parallel wet dry mix. What can I say? Neold, they made this is like their fourth plugin, I think now. They started off with the U76 preamp / compressor, which was great. Then they did the Big Al distortion box with EQ on it, also great. They did one called Warble, which I believe is like a damaged, that's the only one I don't have yet. That's like a damaged tape kind of sound. And then this one. And if you go on the forums, they've laid out their approach to modeling, and it's extremely super involved. If you read how they make this stuff, it's I don't understand that, right? But it's solving the nonlinear equations. It's reducing all of the circuit down to those equations, and then trying to get the computer to solve them without blowing up because of the CPU. and they're great. I love plugins that do that. I can usually hear the difference when they get the modeling at that level, and this is another great offering from them. I think they may have some examples here, so maybe we should leave with those. So this is on the whole mix. This is dry. Wet. Dry. There you go, that's wet. That's a good example of the kind of grind you can get out of this. Anyway, very cool unit. I'll just do one more. Wet. Well, there you go. There is the roundup. I should mention that Mixersys is back in action too as our busyness gradually fades. So we've now, we actually did a review for the Quantum 2772 over at the Mixersys, and we also did one for the Neold U17A. And those are pretty recent videos, so I will link to those. I will link to all of these products in the description. Thanks for checking this out. Make sure you like, make sure you subscribe, and hope to be doing more of this.